right. Well, hey, welcome, guys. This is going to be one of our first kind of one-on-one sessions here at the Tech Care Association to introduce you to somebody in the industry you need to know, I think, and also has some great information on how you guys can learn how to sell more accessories, be more profitable with accessories in your location. If you haven't met him yet, you got to meet Lee Terkel. Lee is with Cellhelmet, and he is a pretty awesome guy. I've known Lee for a few years now. And his company I've known for a long time. Actually found out about Cellhelmet by watching Shark Tank, which was pretty cool because I think you guys were one of the first ones in our industry to show up on Shark Tank. And so that really piqued my interest and wanted me to know more about Cellhelmet. So Lee, say hi to yourself, maybe introduce yourself a little bit and just, tell us briefly about your company.
Sure. Yeah. So thanks. That's a heck of a welcome, Rob. I don't know how to follow that up, but so I'm Lee Terkel. I'm the Executive Vice President here at Cellhelmet. Our company is, I think, a pretty exciting place to be. We got our really, I hate to say cut our teeth because that's so punny, but we cut our teeth back on season 4 of Shark Tank. Came out with the first ever accessory with a guarantee attached to it, a performance guarantee attached to it, and have really grown and spiraled outward ever since. So God, that's almost 10 years ago. And,
wow, that long.
Yeah, and it's really been a phenomenal place. So the repair channel's been a really special place for us. We have a lot of great partners inside of the repair channel, and it's one that's real important to us.
Nice.
As far as the company's concerned, we carry a full line of wireless accessories, basically everything but audio, although that may change very soon. Spoiler alert.
Right.
Everything from screen protection to cases to power to screen care, anything and everything to keep a smart device up and running.
Nice. Well, so question number 1, what do you say to a repair shop that's not selling accessories?
Shame on you. No, in all seriousness, it's kind of funny. We prior to sort of the maturation of our company, Dave Eldridge, who's one of the owners of Cellhelmet, used to own 18 Verizon stores here in Pittsburgh. And so our roots are very much steeped in wireless. And, anyone that's run a wireless business, I think knows pretty well these days that that's the stuff that keeps the lights on. It keeps your door profitable. It's controllable profit and revenue in a lot of ways. And it's really vital. We can't always control how many people walk in our door, but what we can control is how we maximize those opportunities. And so
Sure.
Cellhelmet's focus all along has been, how do we help our partners, whether you're in repair or wireless retail, really doesn't matter, but how can we help you to maximize the door swing? Someone walks in, whether it's to get a device repaired, to get an upgrade, to a new activation, whatever your industry, but how do we get the most out of that and also maximize the opportunity that they're going to come back? And to us, that has a lot to do with having a really healthy accessory program.
Yeah, absolutely. I get that. So if somebody's thinking about their first foray into accessories, so they've actually opened a physical location, they have a retail location, and they've done some repairs, they're making some money, and now they're going to go with repair or go with accessories. So what would you say to that person? And a lot of these guys are starting out in business, they don't know a lot. So I mean, how can they dip their toe in the water? So
sure. One thing I would want to say to that though, Rob, is that you mentioned a physical location. Mobility is a huge part of where the industry is going right now, and
Sure.
accessory sales does not have to be limited to someone with a physical brick and mortar footprint. You're running a mobile repair business, accessories should be part of what you do. And now it changes a little bit because obviously your ability to carry inventory is different, but there's a great subset of products that are universal, that are easy to carry and use as add-ons, and I can cover those. But I would say from 10,000 feet, really the most important thing is that you create a program that's scalable, repeatable, and profitable. And so you might say, well, what does that mean? One is, let's say you start with one door. You want to create a program that works just as well if you had 10 or 20 as if you had one. So one that can scale as your organization grows. repeatable, something that's consistent, so that if someone walks in and tech 1 is on a Monday and tech 2 is on a Wednesday, that the experience they have should sound pretty similar. It's almost a lot like walking into a Starbucks or a McDonald's. You kind of get the same predictable experience. You walk into a Starbucks and regardless of whether you like paying $8 for a cup of coffee or not, you get the same smiling barista that asks you the same questions and hands you a cup with your name on it. And there's a comfort in that for people. And I think, so to run a program that's consistent makes it easier to predict performance, to tweak performance, and to manipulate. And then lastly, profitable. I mean, obviously we do this to help make money. We create value. And the first step is really, are we creating value for our customers? And if we create value for our customers, that translates into profit for our doors. And so again, scalable, profitable, repeatable. And if you keep those three things in mind, I think that's a good 10,000-foot view of what we want to accomplish.
Yeah, and I agree. I mean, have a plan. Could surmise that a little bit. Well, let's say though that let's go back to that guy first getting into it, and he's never bought accessories. He's never made that kind of investment. And first of all, I would just say it's important to look at it as an investment. So if you buy, let's just throw a number out there, $2,000 worth of inventory. So if somebody comes to you and says, "Hey, I've got $2,000 to spend right now," I'm not going to ask you exactly what they should buy, but what I want you to do is maybe tell them what that equals to them in terms of investment. In other words, they buy $2,000 from you, and that should get a return to them of what amount of dollars?
Yeah, I mean, that's a little bit of a loaded question, Rob, only in the sense that every accessory you buy is going to carry a different set of margin to you. So, your highest margin types of attaches are going to be things like screen protection. Mm-hmm. Your lowest margin types of attachments are going to be things like audio and Bluetooth and earbuds and things like that. Those are typically lower margin to you, and they also have higher carry costs. So I think before you get to the number, so whether you're making 80 points, whatever the average becomes, I think the most important part of this, and there's a couple things I would say that are vital. One is, if anyone's willing to listen to one thing I would share with you today, if you walk away with one nugget of information, this is probably the most important piece. The largest failure point for why someone chose not to buy accessories in your store is one really simple concept. And that's that, and this is literally well over 90% of the time, is that it was never presented.
Sure.
It's not that it was too expensive or you didn't have the right item or they didn't like the color or the quality or anything like that. It's that the offer never got made. So before we get ourselves all twisted up in what brand and what color and how much and what should the margin look like, I think the most important part is to create a construct for yourself, and I'll cover text here in a moment, but to create a construct for yourself that makes it really easy, that every single time someone walks in your store, that the offer gets made to somebody.
Yeah.
Because if you do that, you are miles down the road towards success, all other things being equal.
Yeah. Oh, I agree with you wholeheartedly. I come from a world of sales, and you're taught early on, that you have to ask the question. If you can give the greatest presentation, you can have the prettiest store, the greatest selection of accessories in the world, but if you don't ask the question, if you don't say, "Are you interested, or would you like to, purchase this product or present it to them in some way," then you're running into trouble there.
So you bring up a really good point. That's a perfect segue. I think that the challenge that a lot of vendors in this space have had, and I'm not trying to throw anyone under the bus or speak poorly of any of my competitors or distributors or anything like that. There's a lot of really great companies out there, Cellhelmet, I think, being one of them. But I think people tend to broad brush and sort of treat the way they treat wireless retail. And there's really a stark difference. Yes. Wireless retail hires salespeople, right? The people that work on a Verizon floor have sales personalities, have sales compensation plans. know that they're signing up for a sales job and have sales expectations. So it's a whole lot easier to get that person to say, hey, would you like fries with that, right? So it's part of what the expectation is. When someone signs up to be a repair tech, one, and no disrespect to most techs, a lot of people fix things because they don't like selling things. They like fixing things. And a lot of times their personality or aptitude is a little bit more geared towards that. Now, every once in a while, you get a really great tech with a good sales personality, but I would say it's probably not their favorite part of the job. It's not the norm. Sure. So I think the question becomes, okay, well, if that's true, and I believe it is, how do you create an environment that makes it easy for a tech to sell? And the way we do that, and at least the way we believe it at Cellhelmet, is that you make integrated bundled offerings so that
I love that idea. I've heard you talk about it a little bit more, but bundling things together for an offer. So let's talk about that some more. Go ahead.
Yeah, so I'll give you an example. If all you ever sold was screen protection as part of your offering, you will have success. If you did that 80 or 90% of the time, you will have successfully made more profit in your accessory business than anyone else doing anything else.
Yeah.
So a good example of that is to say, to have what you'd call a premium repair, right? So that when someone comes in, let's say I broke my iPhone 12 and I walked in and I said, hey, Rob, my phone's broken. And instead of you saying, okay, Lee, your repair is going to be, I'm making up numbers, obviously, your repair is going to be, $250. And by the way, would you like to get liquid glass with $300 for the coverage with that? And by the way, that's X dollars extra. And then you have to ask, and I have to say yes or no. The way a bundled offering works, an assumptive offering works, is that it's all baked in. That I bring in my iPhone 12 and you say, Lee, I'm so sorry you broke your phone. Let me show you menu selling. Let me show you what comes with your repair today. We're going to get you all fixed up with OEM glass. We're going to do this, this, and this. And by the way, I'm going to apply a treatment to your phone that's called liquid glass. It also comes with $300 screen repair guarantee. So by the way, God forbid you end up back here again, you're covered up to $300 towards your next repair. So let's hope that doesn't, you don't end up here again. As much as I like having you here, don't want to see you break your phone. But that's all for the low price today of $267, whatever the number is. And that way, I never had to ask you if you wanted it, and you never had to say yes or no. All I did was explain, here's what's in our premium repair service. I'm an explainer. And at that point, most people just nod their head like a bobblehead doll and say, okay. Now, some people are going to say, well, do I have to have that in there? And your answer is, well, no, absolutely not. You don't. If you'd like, I can remove the standard repair cost without that in it. And so you're basically selling backwards. You're selling down the mountain. And so I think it's a really easy way to have a sales conversation without ever having a sales conversation, without having to ask the awkward question that most people don't like to ask, which is, would you like to buy something else? And that way, it just makes it super easy for everybody.
Yeah. And, for those of you out there who are not familiar kind of with this formula, that's, if you've ever bought fast food, right, which most of us have, that's kind of the system they've gone with these bundled deals, right? These value meals or combo meals or whatever, that's how they start with you, is they say, hey, here's the combo, right? So, and they throw that out to you and you're like, well, sure, yeah, I want those three things, so I'm going to buy that. And then, but if you don't, they give you the option of buying the single item. So it just makes it easier for the customer to accept it, but it also makes it easier for the person offering it to present it to them, right? Because they're not having to, forcibly sell a product to them, which again, I know from experience with techs. I mean, majority of my techs had no interest whatsoever in wanting to sell something. In fact, they were kind of anti-sales, like you said. Maybe it's just their character, their persona, is that they don't want to do that. So it's a really tricky thing to do. So I love the idea of bundling and offering that to the customer. I don't know if have you seen somebody that maybe has made a display like that within their store, or have you guys provided any material?
Yeah, so that's actually one of the things that Cellhelmet provides our partners is
Nice.
we'll actually create the bundled offering in a laminated menu or counter mat or whatever format you'd like to have it in. We have a full design department that does those things.
That's great.
And we collaborate with the partner to do that. So we literally craft a custom offering for you. And we don't charge to do that. It's part of the service, and obviously it benefits both of us.
Right.
The better the sell through that you have, the more products we sell, and we make more money too. So it's a win-win ecosystem for all of us.
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely, and that's a great service to have, because guys in stores, having professional point of display materials, is really important. When you're writing stuff on a sign or printing it on your copy or whatever, it doesn't look as good. It's not professional.
And it also decreases legitimacy, Rob. So
yeah.
Have you ever been to a car dealership where the guy rolls up his sleeves and says, "Let me talk to my F&I guy," and next thing you know, he comes with like this cocktail napkin sketch of what your car is going to cost, and immediately everyone's defenses go up, right? Because you feel like I'm getting worked here.
Yeah.
But yet no one ever saw a printed menu at the Cheesecake Factory and thought that the server selling them the bowl of pasta was trying to get one over on them. Why? Well, it's a restaurant and it's a printed menu, and it says it right there that that's what this item costs, and everything looks very official and professional and sort of set in stone, right? So I think when you see those sorts of things, people tend to question it far less. It just becomes, well, I guess that's what it is.
Yeah, absolutely. And when you talk about scalable, repeatable things like that, it's setting those programs in place to present them to the customer, making it part of their regular routine. Because I thought about Cheesecake Factory, which, by the way, their menu is like
it's like a binder, right?
It's like a binder. Yeah, that place scares me to go in.
That's actually a really good point, Rob, and I'm glad you brought that up. The one thing I would encourage everyone is keep it simple. The Cheesecake Factory is a really good example. As much as I love some of the stuff on their menu, sometimes I dread eating there because I literally can't flip and decide what to eat. Yeah. There's just too many. It's a spiral binder of a menu.
Yep.
Sometimes people can get paralysis, and so can your sales folks or your tech, right? So if there's too many choices, if you carry too many brands, if there are too many bundle options, I tend to love a really simple, maybe a good, better, best, or maybe even just here's what it is. Here's our path. And the more simple you tend to keep things, I think the better the execution becomes from your team.
I agree. Something we incorporated in my stores was having my techs use the phrase "we recommend." A lot of the customers in this type of situation, look to the tech repair shop as experts, which they are. They're experts in what they want to do. So when you make a recommendation to them, they're going to take that a lot more highly than your tech saying, "Would you like to buy a case?" Right? My guys would say, "We recommend a case. We recommend a screen protector." When they were talking to customers, and they felt natural saying that, so they were comfortable with that. And I think it came off better to the customer too, because the customer's like, "Well, these guys know what they're talking about." Right?
Sure. Absolutely. So, and I don't want to beat that dead horse too much, but I think if you start from there, you're really pointing yourself in a direction that is easier to get off on the right foot and be successful. The second piece to this is training. Just like your techs get trained on fixing certain pieces of technology and they get certified to do that. The same thing should happen with your sales culture. And by the way, what we're talking about here is really building a sales culture. Is you have to practice it, and it has to be something that you do regularly. It has to be part of your onboarding process. And again, that's not to make this a Cellhelmet commercial, but that's something we work really hard to do, is to provide that level of support. So, I'm sure there's probably quite a few folks in your audience that work with Brett Irwin or someone else on our team. And part of what he does is to help onboard and train employees to make sure that they understand the sales culture that they're walking into, and that it gives, and whether that's an onboarding or a refresher, that's something, whether you employ us to do that or whether you do it yourself, it really is important to do to make it part of the regular. If it's not something that's paid attention to regularly, everyone knows it's not very important. Yeah.
I'm a firm believer in making your shops, as long as you have the floor space to be able to do so, to make them a destination for accessories.
Yeah.
Again, my customers, I think, felt comfortable coming back to my shops because we didn't have aggressive salespeople. They could come in and look for or purchase what they need. So, I mean, kind of address that a little bit as a return type location after, repair, being neighborhood, type accessory operation, if you will.
Well, so I think this flows into a couple different areas. One is, and I'll go back to the employee here. I do believe that, and I know some folks do and don't, so this is a touchy one. I do believe you should have some kind of a compensation package for your folks that if they sell accessories that they get rewarded somehow, whether that's some kind of a commission or a bonus structure or whatever, or maybe it's team-based, individually based. You can do it a bunch of different ways, but no one ever likes to do something extra, if you will, that there's nothing in it for them. So I think you have to figure out a way that there's a carrot for your team that they do get excited about it. Now, the last thing you want, to your point, is a cutthroat sales floor with people jamming things down people's throats, because no one ever likes to come back to that.
Right.
This is probably a good time maybe to cover some do's and don'ts of
go ahead.
Products, philosophy. So I would say the first is don't buy cheap stuff. And again, I'm not telling you need to buy Cellhelmet. Of course, we'd love you to, but I think the whole thing is to buy quality, to align yourself with a brand that you believe in, that is consistent and is going to be there to support your customer should something go wrong, and something that presents itself well on your peg wall. And if you do those things, you now have taken what hopefully is a really good technology repair service that's being provided, and you're pairing it with what is a good looking and feeling retail environment. And if you pair those two and marry them together, people feel comfortable and they feel like they're being delivered quality. And that reflects on you, your store name and your brand, and the experience they had that hopefully they tell others about and come back themselves. So
and let me just jump in on the quality side of there, because I agree with that 100% and would encourage, anybody and everybody. It's easy to buy cheap stuff. It's easy to buy, knockoff product and things like that. But it's not going to sell as well, and it's not going to bring you repeat business. It's just the truth, right?
Yeah, and it's a total. I think people get I always call it shiny penny syndrome, right? We get sort of caught chasing shiny pennies around, and it's distracting. And whether those are things, Rob, like closeout deals or spot buys, and I'm not saying that there's not moments for those. Obviously, there are, depending upon the product. But think about it. If you've worked for 6 months to get your sales team aligned on selling, let's say it's a specific brand of power product or a case or whatever, and all of a sudden you get some shiny deal on some closeout deal on 1,000 units of X, and so you plunk down and you buy it, and now you have a bunch of people going, "What the heck's this? Like, where's my stuff that I like, that I keep recommending to people?" And so I think it really throws a monkey wrench into what is hopefully a really consistent process for yourself. And then also, when people walk into a store and they consistently see brands being supported, it creates brand confidence. And so I think there's a lot of reasons to be consistent.
Yeah, and I go back to my statement, where I was talking about, making it easy, making it part. I mean, the repeatable part you talked about. If you're selling a consistent brand, you can say, this is something my company recommends. And that's honestly what we did. We looked around at brands and found the brands that we really liked and we really felt like we could support, whether it was power, whether it was cases, screen protectors, et cetera, et cetera. And that's what we told our customers. And they believed that, which they should, because we did spend time doing that. And that's what you can do with a quality brand like Cellhelmet, definitely. In your shops, and people can come to trust that and know they can get that at your shops.